Hello, my name is Pedro Amaral and I work as Deputy Director in Proforest. I'll be talking to you today about the Soy Toolkit, which is a program developed and ran by Proforest in partnership with WWF as part of the Good Growth Partnership, which is a program funded by the Global Environment Facility. The Soy Toolkit is about capacity building. It is about increasing the capacity that companies in the soy supply chain have to implement responsible sourcing policies. Over this webinar, I'll be very briefly presenting you Proforest. Then I'll be talking very briefly about the rising concerns in the soy sustainability agenda. And then we're going to get into the Soy Toolkit and some of its features and how it can help companies address those concerns in the soy sustainability agenda. Proforest is a mission-driven organization headquartered in Oxford in the UK, with presence in Southeast Asia, West Africa, Europe, and Latin America. Among other things, we partner with companies across several supply chains to help them develop and implement responsible sourcing and responsible production commitments and practices. We also work a lot on capacity building, which is what the Soy Toolkit is all about. There's a rising concern in the soy sustainability agenda that part of the soy grown on the planet is associated with deforestation and native vegetation conversion and human rights violations. There are many research papers published on very respected journals establishing a link between commodity production and particularly soy with those issues that I mentioned. There are also many NGOs working to shed light on the connection between supply chain companies, including traders, brands, and retailers, with issues happening at farm level where soy production is taking place, along with where other commodities, including palm oil, beef, cocoa, might be taking place. These are examples of scorecards and reports put together by these NGOs in which they not only make the link between the supply chain companies with issues at ground level, but also show what these companies are doing about it, how they are trying to address these issues, and if they have commitments about it and how they are implementing it. And a number of companies have made commitments about how they source different commodities, including soy. On the screen, you can see the logos of companies that have made such commitments and that are working to implement them across their supply chains. These companies, some of them are downstream, further removed from where production is taking place, whereas others are upstream companies, very close to where production is taking place. And ultimately, these companies will need to engage with each other as each one has a role to play, and a downstream company will need to rely on its upstream supplier to be able to implement the commitments on the ground. There are many other companies with similar commitments. You can check that on Forest 500 or WWF scorecard or the supply chain platform, which will also provide you with more information on what these commitments are all about. But usually, these commitments refer to the fact that these companies will only source soy that is grown according to the local laws, that is not involved with deforestation and respects human rights wherever it is produced. But of course, not all soy, and in fact, most of soy is expected not to have issues where it is grown. It is expected to be produced according with the regulations, respecting forest land that exists, and respecting the people involved in the supply chain. But how can you prove that? How can you evidence? How can you show that the soy you're trading is not associated with one of those issues? This is exactly what we try to show with the Soy Toolkit. What are the geospatial information available? What are the tools available to help you show that? What are all the initiatives that exist to help you demonstrate that your soy is not associated with environmental or social issues? And also, if you find out that they are, what are the tools to address those issues? So we organize the wealth of knowledge about things like traceability, risk assessment, supplier engagement, purchase control systems, monitoring and reporting around fast reading documents that we call briefing notes or discussion papers that are all made publicly available on the Soy Toolkit website, and which gather our best understanding of the resources available to help companies implement these sourcing commitments. As it is nowadays, the Soy Toolkit addresses resources useful for those sourcing from Brazil, but we also have plans to expand that for other countries such as Argentina and Paraguay. So we organize the wealth of knowledge around these 5 elements that you see on the screen. Element 1 relates to assessing and planning the implementation of the sourcing commitments. Element 2 relates to understanding the supply chain risks, which breaks down into traceability and risk analysis. Element 3 relates to engaging with suppliers, be your supplier an upstream company or be your supplier a midstream company. Element 4 relates to establishing a purchase control system. And element 5 relates to monitoring, verifying, and reporting how successful you're being in implementing your policy commitments. Again, this is all available online on the Soy Toolkit website, which is made available in English, Portuguese, and Mandarin. So we invite you all to check the website and the resources that can be relevant for your journey in implementing soy sourcing commitments. Be it because your company has these commitments, be it because your customer has these commitments. So over the next slides, I'm going to give you a glimpse of the references and resources that we feature in the Soy Toolkit. And I want to show you how we try to be very practical in terms of showing the resources available and how you can benefit from that in that, trying to evidence that your soy is not associated with issues, or help you flag if they are, and then allowing you to take action to resolve those issues. So in Brazil, the Brazil Forest Code is the main piece of legislation stating how much a landowner should preserve of native vegetation. And depending on where the property is, from 20 to 80% of the land as a minimum needs to be preserved as legal reserve. And to implement the Forest Code, the federal government has developed a system and the Rural Environmental Registry, which is self-declared information about the boundaries and a set of other information, including where you are preserving native vegetation. That all needs to be enrolled in online systems that ultimately are pulled all together in a federal online system called the Rural Environmental Registry System, and which makes all the information from the farms available. So every single farm enrolled has its information made available in the public domain. Most of the farms in Brazil have already enrolled. And once it's done, the system starts automatically analyzing the registry, and if there are, for instance, overlays with protected areas, such as indigenous territories. The next phase of the implementation of this law is that state-level environmental agencies will be responsible for validating these registries. And in some states, this is already happening. Once the state level agency validates it, every single landowner will be informed if they are compliant with the code or not, or if they need to take actions to be fully compliant, such as restoring part of the land. So if you are a soybean buyer and you are buying directly from the farmer, you can request the registry number, and with that number, you can use this platform, which is available in the public domain, to check if the registry is active, pending, or cancelled. And therefore, it will allow you to know if along these phases to implement the code, your supplier is compliant with that specific phase of the implementation. This provides an unprecedented level of transparency to such a huge number of farms. And again, it's a way to demonstrate that your suppliers are complying with the laws and are preserving native vegetation, if that's the case. Another resource that we feature in the Soy Toolkit is the IBAMA list of environmental embargoes. And IBAMA is the federal environmental agency in Brazil. And they make available in the public domain on a platform that they develop and run information on all environmental embargoes and everyone that was found to be breaching environmental laws, including illegal deforestation happening. So a company buying soy from a farmer can cross-check that farmer information with the information on the IBAMA list. And if by any chance that supplier is flagged on the list, which means that he or her is has probably been found to be breaching an environmental law, that purchase can be prevented from happening, and a further engagement with the farmer can happen to, one, see if the system can be proved wrong, two, agree on a plan to resolve the issue. Another platform available is the one developed and run by the Public Prosecutor's Office. It's called Amazônia Protege, and it gathers law processes not only related to environmental issues, but also social ones. So for instance, the platform provides you with information on land conflicts processes happening in the Amazon. And you can also use that to scrutinize your suppliers to check if they are somehow involved in such a process, and then take actions to not buy from them or to resolve the issue, which is ultimately what we hope will happen with the use of these tools and resources, as the company buying soy can be a positive force, can provide a positive influence to foster a more sustainable soy production. Another example of resource available is the Amazon Soy Moratorium, something that we mentioned in the Soy Toolkit. This is an agreement that was made between ABIOV, the Brazilian National Vegetable Oil Association, and ABIEC, the Brazilian Cereal Exporters Association, not to buy or trade or finance the production of soy in areas in the Amazon that have been deforested after 2008. And what it provides traders with is a very internationally credible framework to demonstrate that they are not buying soy that is associated with deforestation in the Amazon, provided that they fully comply with the moratorium requirements. And if you're a downstream company and you're buying from a trader that is a signatory and is fully compliant, you can claim that the soy you're buying from the Amazon is not associated with deforestation. Of course, there are caveats, and the full methodology and results can be found on ABIOV's website on the link that you see on the screen. But overall, the moratorium has been very successful in helping reduce deforestation in the Amazon. As you can see on the graph on the right side of the screen, there was a drastic reduction from 2009 onwards. And this is attributable to a set of initiatives that got traction in that period, including the soy moratorium, the agreement among the largest meat packers with Greenpeace and with the Public Prosecutor's Office, the fact that law enforcement improved in those years, and the fact that more protected areas, legally protected areas, were created in the Amazon. So overall, these initiatives helped achieve a drastic reduction in deforestation in the Amazon, while production kept increasing. Not only soy production, but also cattle raising increased in the period. Something else that we feature in the Soy Toolkit are the purchase control systems that some large soybean buyers have been using in Brazil. So with the purchase control system, they scrutinize every single direct soybean purchase against a set of criteria, including if suppliers show up in the list of embargoes from IBAMA, or if suppliers show up in the list of forced labor made available by the Ministry of Economy, including other criteria. But the point is that if suppliers are flagged breaching any of these criteria, the system automatically prevents the purchase from going through. This allows the companies directly buying soybeans to prevent buying soybeans that they find with issues happening at ground level. But it also allows them to engage with that supplier to, one, give them the chance to prove the system wrong, and two, agree on a plan to address the issues that were identified to resolve them. And many large traders have been employing systems like this. Amagi and Bunge are some examples. Of course, there are differences between them, but you can find more about what they request from farmers and how they have been achieving some results on their websites. So there are many other systems, tools, and projects that we feature in the Soy Toolkit. We could name here Map Biomas, Global Forest Watch, information made available about native vegetation conversion in the Cerrado. There are also information about projects engaging with farmers to help them improve, such as Soja Plus, led by Abiove, or the Producing Right platform, to name a few. We also show what sort of KPIs upstream and downstream companies have been using to monitor progress and implementing their commitments and so on. And again, everything is available on the website. It's all in the public domain, and it's available in English, Portuguese, and Mandarin. Some large traders have been using and publicly stating that they use the Soy Toolkit in their revised action plans or policy commitments, including cargo. Apart from that, the Soy Toolkit has also been mentioned in a number of relevant reports in the Zero Deforestation Agenda, such as the New York Declaration on Forest Progress Report. Under the Soy Toolkit program, Proforest has the mandate and the resource to develop capacity building activities with companies in the soy supply chain interested in learning more about traceability, risk assessment, supplier engagement, monitoring and reporting, how to plan to implement the commitments, Any of those subjects covered by the Soy Toolkit is subject to a capacity building activity, be it a training, a workshop, or a webinar. So if you are by any chance interested in further exploring one of the topics that we address in the Soy Toolkit, do reach out to us, do contact us by email, so we can further discuss how to support you. This is completely free of charge. This is funded by the Global Environment Facility, and the program runs until April 2021. So until then, we can prepare and deliver such capacity building activities. Do check the website to figure out and to understand more about it and to see what topics you'd like to further explore. And then feel free to contact us. Thank you.